So welcome to week 72 of the Wellness Wednesday series. And today, welcome everybody. And today's topic is about exploring and maintaining healthy relationships. And what we always do is have this discussion where we share from a peer level experience, what the concepts mean to us, how we can turn it into a skill, how we can get better at it. And and I think this is a really good one because it's this idea. I got to send somebody a message right now. One of my friends is calling me. Um, it takes a little bit of time and effort to actually build and maintain relationships. So I'm going to just open it up to each one of you and have that discussion of, what does this mean to you, this topic, and what would you like to get out of today? I'll start with you, Paul.
Oh, I've been a bit in a naughty corner. I have to start. Um, I think nurturing, well, for me, it's an interesting subject because there's so much and many layers to it. I mean, coming years about nurturing relationships. Come, um, we can't exist with our community as people to build good relationships with ourselves. So it's also important. So and it's also meaning, well, building a good relationship with yourself and also being able to go outside yourself to be there for others. So, yeah, I'm just here to, well, as always, just pick up wisdom and see what I can take away and build on within myself. Clara, I nominate you.
Mhm. Yeah, can you please repeat the question? I'm not sure.
It's really what would you like to get out of today?
Okay. Um, just to know more about how we can not only maintain relationships, but also different skills we can learn to maybe manage conflicts or be more empathetic or all of those kind of skills which help either maintain your relationships or build other better relationships. So yeah, like mostly about those kind of skills that could uh that if we apply could really kind of help us have better relationships, either new ones or the ones that we already have. Yeah.
Who would you like to pick? Will or Soham or me?
So I'll pick Soham.
Thank you, Clara. For
Yeah.
me, I think over the years, as I've grown older, maybe when I was younger, I would, in a relationship, friendship relationship, I would hold back of being who I was. And, like whatever feeling I'm having, I always used to think, if I said this, how would the other person would feel? Maybe I think now I don't do that so often. I actually say how I feel and what's in my heart. And, mm, and I find that's, I'm not being upset by it because what happened used to happen. I used to hold back and not be honest to the other person, and they carry on doing something that I didn't like. So I'm not being honest with me, but I'm not being honest with them. So I think what I've learned over the years is to be honest with myself and honest with the people, and I think through doing coaching as well, I've learned a lot more about myself, and as I've learned so much about myself, I feel I understand other people better as well, you know. But I think for me, honesty is the best policy in a relationship where you don't then, allow other people to, you know, we talk about boundaries, and in a relationship, many times people come into your boundaries, and if you don't tell them that this is the boundary they can't come into, they won't know, and they will carry on being sometimes narcissist, or horrible or good or whatever we call that to be. So that's how I feel for me. I've over the years, I've learned being honest with me and honest with people around me as well. And I've had nurtured better relationship with people because of that. Thank you. And I nominate Will.
So for me, actually keeping relationships strong is actually step within those relationships is, making sure that you nurture them, making sure that regardless of what's happening, if you're in a thing, it's only just their perspective. It doesn't actually mean that they're attacking you or attacking the relationship in the way. It's just their perspective, and understanding that we all come to these things with a different perspective and a different set of ideals. That's why we bond as people, is because sometimes it's the differences that brings us together. It's the differences that makes us the strongest. And if we're all the same, it gets very boring. I just spent close to three weeks with one of my closest friends. We've been friends for 30 something years, but at times we are so different. And at times we can see everything as in opposition to each other, but we know that in each other and we embrace that in each other, and then can fall about laughing about how we may have seen something so differently to what it actually was. And it helps nurture that, and it helps strengthen that bond within that sort of nucleus. And I nominate the last one, Stephen.
Thank you, Will. What I like is we go on this development curve, I think, and as we become more mature in emotional intelligence and a little bit of resilience, that there's a little bit of internal reflection, right? The more self-aware you become, the more that you notice how you feel, how other people that you interact with, how that creates this synchronicity and feeling and experience. And to me, it's, this is our life. Each one of us are living our own lives. And it's up to each one of us to make those lives the best. And I can remember before I had grown a little bit in maturity, and this emotional maturity is, I would maintain or try to put tremendous amount of energy into relationships that were draining. And in many cases, it would leave me feeling less or depleted, or sometimes even questioning my own self-worth, lowering my self-confidence. So what I found is that a healthy relationship, this is something that we choose. Not every relationship that we come across will be healthy. Some will be, they'll extract a toll on us. That it cost us part of our life and our experience. And that's not all bad, because in some cases those are opportunities for growth, right? If we have a trigger, is it really the other person, or is it us? And so for me, relationships are about this, I don't know, this quest for curiosity, learning about the other person, finding out if we gel, if we inspire one another, if we become better as people. And so, I'd like to know the skills and the tricks. I'd like to learn today the skills and the tricks and the things. And I really think it comes down to just simply investment of time and investment of thought. But finding out ways to build deeper, more meaningful relationships, and kind of get that balance of, okay, what's the right number? Is it a handful? Is it many? Finding out the ultimate, mix of what community we need to have an amazing life. And I consider all of you friends, even though we're not close, we're not in the same vicinity. I don't know. I just feel like I could talk to you about anything if I needed to. So, I appreciate you for who you are. So, is there anything that that comes to mind from where we started? Anybody have anything? Go ahead, Paul.
So you can go first. Sorry.
I think what first word came to my mind when you were saying that, Stephen, was non-judgmental. You know, in a relationship, when we are non-judgmental, then we are able to support them as well as support ourselves. You know, when I become judgmental and selfish, and I have experienced this, and I'm talking from experience that when and in a relationship, there's or in a friendship, only one person is giving, and one is taking, but they don't realize they're taking, and they continuously keep asking. And then when the other person ends up saying, no, I'm not going to give you anymore, you need to find it for yourself, and the other person then feels that, you know, you're being selfish and you're not authentic because you're not giving them always like you used to, you know. So I think, you know, in a relationship, you have to be also very mindful and non-judgmental that, you know, apart from you expect from the other person, you as an individual need to also reflect continuously. This is how I work, right? And I'm not saying everybody needs to work in that same way, but I feel that, you know, I always reflect when I'm in a relationship or when I'm in any friendship. I always say to myself, the way I'm behaving, how is that actually affecting the other individual, you know? And, you know, how close they are, it also matters to me, you know? And you can say sometimes I become sensitive because I think in this way, you know? But I have grown a slightly bigger shoulder nowadays. So that's my thought. Thank you. Paul, thank you.
No, thank you, Sam. I mean, you've two words you've mentioned that the first word you mentioned earlier was narcissist. You sort of referenced narcissist, but I have a policy about narcissists. If I do worry that somebody is a narcissist, I do not want anything to do with them. And maybe that leads me to my other thing. I'm quite judgmental, but I have also been burned with narcissists, and so coming back to like what everybody's been saying, it's popped out for me. Um, and the one thing that came up to me is like I want to be less judgmental, and as I've been on this journey, and you know, you mentioned another word I love is self-awareness, and that self-awareness has helped me be less judgmental of me. This morning I was doing a practice and a reflection on yesterday, and one of the things that I was able to do was manage the, because Clara talked about conflict, I was managing the conflict within myself. And that conflict was, I didn't turn up as my best version yesterday. And there was all this judgment happening by me towards me until I had my reflection. And I was like, okay, so how do heroes deal with this? And for me, it was like simple. I can do better. By judging myself, I'm not doing better. Then I'm just being toxic to myself. That judgment and shame doesn't work. So I pulled it back and I was like, okay, well, today I'll do better. I'll try better. And the other thing that comes up for me in that context is this idea of expanding myself so I can expand my comfort zone of the people that I can tolerate, judge less. I know it sounds sort of, I mean, the word judgment always is there in my head. So I don't know, you triggered that word today, Soham. So I want to expand my comfort zone so I can be better with myself and with others. And then the last thing is about the energy thing. I do think, again, when it comes to narcissists and people that are energy vampires, it's very difficult. And it's like, for me, I was in a conversation recently with somebody in a meeting, and I found myself exhausted. I found that person was very much, their comfort zone was very small, and they were trying to drag everybody into their comfort zone, and I felt myself shrinking into their box, and it felt like I was being Picassoing myself and my thinking to fit the situation. Anyway, there's a lot of things going on. So yeah, thank you.
So what a wonderful discussion. You know, these ideas about as you were sharing, it's the ideas about non-judgment, you know, and also self-judgment. You mentioned Soham, and then you know the practices of mindfulness and reflection, and it's these ideas of being conscious or intentional in the relationships. And I really liked what Paul said about the self-awareness, you know, and I think that's the key of becoming less self-judgmental and less critical of ourselves, right? We should model the relationship we want to have with others with ourselves first. And most of us are taught that that's not good. We're taught that that's selfish or, you know, and that's what they say about narcissists, that, you know, that they love themselves, right? That was the Greek god. But it's this idea that I think we have to be responsible for how we feel. And that's always a fine line. I've always heard that if you ask yourself whether you're a narcissist or not, you're not, right? Because a narcissist wouldn't, they're not concerned with how others view them. They're only concerned with their view out. So it brings us into kind of a good question. The question is we're talking about what relationships to pursue, but more importantly, what relationships should we let fade away? You know, should we not put effort? And Paul mentioned a little bit about, you know, if there's some red flags there for narcissists, you know, you got to notice that. So for myself, my general rule for like a relationship, like a romantic relationship, would be if I'm not a better person in a year's time, and that I just given myself kind of a, you know, a block that I'll have to rethink it, right? Because we have to be continuously improving and growing, and so that would be something that I would look at as a metric. But also, if it's short term, I find out whether I find myself in a thought loop or an emotional loop that's negative, judgmental, where somebody has triggered something in me where now I'm doubting myself, or you know, I'm wondering if as Paul said, I'm trying to shrink to fit their box, and I don't know that we can do that. A true friend would seek common ground, would seek meaning, would seek communication, and so you know, I think effective communication, finding somebody with effective communication is one of the most important things. So I guess a red flag would be people that cannot communicate well. So how about for, you know, one of you, when would be a thought of when you should let relationships, you know, put less energy into them? Go ahead, Will.
When you're the one putting all the work into it, you're the one making the arrangements, you're the one checking in on them, you're the one that's always remembering things that are going on in their life. That's when when you suddenly realize, going, hang on a minute, that person doesn't do this for me. That's when I step backwards. And if they don't step forward to find out why I've stepped backwards, I step further backwards. And that's when I turn and go in another direction to go, you know what, it was only meant to be, it was one of those relationships that was only meant to be for a short time. And and that's for me. It's when you're putting in all the work, and they're just, as I think Paul said, you know, energy vampires, or it's all about them. Those people that you sit and talk to, and they pour out. Yeah, I know, as coaches and counselors and all that, we have a hidden neon sign above us that says, "Tell me your woes." But you do get those friends that know that you do that for work or that kind of thing, but still insist on pouring out everything to you every time they see you, and don't say, "How are you?" And that's when I start questioning those relationships, is because they don't bother to extend it beyond their own realm and find out how you're doing. And a truth, and I was saying, some of my truest friends I see once or twice a year, maybe have a Zoom call every 6 months, and it's like we talked just last week. And it'll always be, there'll be a quick message going, hope you're doing well. We don't need to have a long text dialogue or anything like that. Yep, hope you're doing well too, or you just send a random one to them. They're the relationships I truly value, are the ones that don't cost anything to be part of.
Thank you for that, Will. How about for you, Soham? What are some indicators or some ideas that where you would find yourself devoting less energy to a relationship?
I will say very similar to Will, and I will say for me it's happened with cousins, not so much with friends, because majority of my friends, they do connect, and I consider them to be friends, but I find like as you know, from Indian background, I have lots of cousins, and I find cousins don't tend to connect, and it's always I am connecting. So I just find, okay, if that's the case, then I like what Will just said. I don't connect either. I just wait until they connect, because end of the day, I'm thinking I'm always the one who's making the effort, and if they're not making the effort, they don't value me as much as I may value them in my life, So I also step back as well. But now and again, I will say with friends, like some of my friends where I don't have many friends. I can only count my friends in my hand. And I'm glad I'm majority of my friends in the Global Summit group. But, like we always connect in there, there's messages are going there. We're wishing people happy birthday. And if, beside that, if I want to say something to any of my coaching friends, I easily just connect with them by sending them messages, and I do that, and vice versa. So I feel, if people value you, then they will connect with you and they will think of you. Like I just wanted to say to everybody, I met Jane when I went to Newport. And it was so beautiful that I was able to meet somebody who lives the other part of the world, and I was going in that part of the world, and we arranged to meet each other, and it was such a beautiful way of meeting. And hopefully, of course, Willie lives in London, but I still don't make the effort.
So, we live in the same city. We only connect on Zoom.
No, I mean, I need to make an effort to see you as well, my darling.
We're both a bit slack on that point. But didn't you caught up with Jan, didn't you?
Yes, I did. It was so lovely to see Jane, Jan, and it's, like it's nice to see each other on Zoom, but it's so beautiful that we could connect, and we sat there for at least about 2-3 hours chatting away, leaving my husband to do his own thing, which was lovely, and he did join in some of the conversations, but he just did his own thing, which was so lovely, And so I think it's so beautiful that I connect with my Global Summit family more, I'm going to say, than I actually connect with my cousins.
And it's amazing because here we have these relationships that we build up over Zoom, and when you meet somebody in person and you have that connection to the energy, and when somebody is truly glad to see you and there's excitement, and it lifts your spirit. It makes us feel valued. It makes us feel loved, and it makes our day better, right? It's like when somebody's truly excited to see you, and especially when there's a little bit of novelty or difficulty to the arrangement, it's like it's really special. So I commend you on doing that.
And Stephen, as you say, the energy, like, okay, I know we are all professional coaches, but there's a spiritual energy, as well attached to us as well to a degree, So, when I did meet Jen, it was so beautiful, it just, I knew that I had met this soul in the past as well, It wasn't like, I was meeting her for the first time ever, because I wasn't, because as you say, we meet on Zoom all the time. So I do know all you guys very well.
And it's that and there are people that are just like, I guess, like, it's kind of a meek soul, right? It's people that are kind, and then to see that energy, come out, it it's really nice to see, because it's palpable. You can actually feel it. So how about for you, Paul?
You have Miss Clara. Sorry,
Oh,
Stephen.
oh, Clara, go ahead. I lost where we were at. It's such a good conversation.
No, I know. That's why I was like, but I
I even forgot what the question was that we were talking about.
I
Oh,
remember the question.
was it when? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the question was when is the right time to like kind of leave relationship, something like that. Um, and for me, I think I have like uh two main uh two main times when you can leave a relationship. Maybe one of them could be when you have realized maybe you have outgrown them. Like you are, it's not like you are better than them. You're not, uh, but it's like you see there's a huge difference between uh, how you are and how they are. Maybe let's say after 5 years, they could still be the same person, and you are already have different views, different values, different a lot of things. So you might find that you have different interests, different things that you care about, which can be sometimes very hard to find anything to kind of like even talk about, uh or you might find maybe they are still in the mode of um let's say complaining about the same things, or so it's like they could have like this same world that's like for 5, 10 years, and you feel like you've kind of outgrown that. So I think it's a good thing, yeah, to kind of either leave a relationship or at least to kind of somehow detach yourself and not be in it like for the most time. And another time, I think when it's like a toxic relationship, uh, this is mostly like with, I don't know, mostly with the closest people, maybe, especially maybe relatives, sometimes even siblings, and some even be parents, who maybe it has been like maybe very traumatic or very, like people who you feel like they never understand you or anything like that. But it could also be friends who you're just never on the same page, or could have somehow they always like treat you badly, or hurt you all the time, or I don't know how to put it, like you always feel like this kind of maybe emotional pain whenever you are around them or something like that. Yeah, so I think those two scenarios, like when the relationship are toxic and when you're somehow outgrown, whether it's friends or relatives or siblings or uh, I don't know, whoever. Yeah.
All right, where are we at? Go ahead.
can I love what Clara was saying, because I think some of us, familial relationships are the trickiest. Um, that's where a lot of conflict can exist, but it can also cause conflict within us, beyond what the relationship is, and that's expanding. That's again for me coming back. I have. I don't want to sort of go into detail, but I have this relationship, and I sort of cut ties for a while, and to be able to reflect on that. And during that time, I was like, hmm, maybe I can do better within myself. Maybe they can't, but I do, on some level, value this relationship. Um, And I think that is I mean, everybody is saying such triggering things. I mean, everybody's got these, like the levels of relationship. Will was saying about friends that you speak to once a year and connect to. And I think it's also our expectations in these relationships. What I've Because I know what I am and who I can be, what I can be like, um, and also being away in different countries from a lot of my friends. It's like this morning, I have a friend that I call, we have a conversation once a month on Zoom. So we chat once a month and we're becoming closer and closer friends. Otherwise, we may, back in Cape Town, we would have seen each other a few times a year when, they were over there from Switzerland. Or if we came to Europe, maybe we'd bump into them. So it's like these kind of relationships develop, and it all depends on our expectations of what relationships should be. And I'm finding then you have, and I think again, it's the focus thing. You have the close ones, and then it expands. We'll mention stepping back and stepping forward. If they don't come forward, you step further back. And I think I have this friend. She's no longer a friend. With her, it was just no. That was okay. That I now see you, but you have people who have friends for different things, and for the longest time, I couldn't understand that, and I I realized maybe I was just being naive. I wanted this is my buddy and all that, but in and it's you go, oh, but that's sweet, it's nice to have that. But I have that in my with my husband, and I had that with my best friend, who passed away. And I think I was spoiled in relationships. Like I needed two people in my life. Like I didn't need anybody else because they just, I mean, and Tony is still everything, and then Dennis, bless his soul, uh, he was everything else to me. So we had that. But then you come into the world after a loss like that, and you have to, okay, where do I fit in? Then you have COVID, and how does this all fit together? So it does make for restructuring in your thinking as well.
Thank you for that. So has everybody gone? Or do you need to go? Everybody went? So the next question that comes to mind, and we've got time probably for one more. What would be the ideal friend? So like if we're going to, like, who would be the ideal, what would be the qualities of an ideal friend for you? And for me, it's an interesting thing because it's this idea that I'd like to get this clarity and then become that, right? So actually become the ideal friend that I'm seeking, but also be aware of what a friend is for somebody else. Because have you ever heard of the book, The Love Languages? The way that I express love or friendship is through acts of service. That's the way that I express it, right? And for me, when you're in a connection with friends, it's thinking about them. It's I just had this conversation yesterday. Some friends were sick, and so I made some soup and I took it to them, and stopped and picked up some a cheesecake that from a bakery where the chef, it's a little tiny uh, bakery. It's in the middle of a strip mall, and the the guy studied in Italy. He's from Poland, and his brother-in-law is Russian, and so that they have this wonderful cultural food, and it's lovely food. And so I picked that up and I took it over to two friends that were about an hour drive away, and dropped off the soup and the cheesecakes. But on the way back, the other friends that were sick. He says, "Well, I would prefer that you didn't drop it off." And I thought, well, okay, because I had actually given all my soup away, and I really wanted some because it was good. But I thought, well, that's kind of a crappy thing to do, right? Um, it's like if someone's trying to express, something kind, then you should let them do it, even if it's not something that's on the radar. Let them be kind or loving, let them express it. So for me, I think it's being available to to friends. It's being conscientious and it's being curious. So that's what I'm going to focus on and be a little bit more organized and intentional in developing the friendships. So how about for you, Soham? What is a good friend to you? You want to go, Paul?
No, sorry, Will message. He has to leave in a
Oh,
few minutes.
go ahead. Go ahead, Will.
I was just to what you said, I was just going to say, be gracious to those friends that you've got, and be gracious back to them. So, like Stephen, that was a beautiful gesture. And just be gracious, whether you want the soup or not. Just be gracious and say thank you so much. Best, I'm really sick. Best you don't come in the house. If you don't mind, can you leave it by the door and I'll pick it up in a minute? Or answer the door and just talk through the door. Just be gracious that someone's actually doing something for you, and be gracious in doing it for someone else. I think that's all I wanted to add.
Before you go, what is a good friend to you? I mean, what would be the qualities of somebody that you really appreciate as a friend?
Someone I can laugh with, I can cry with, I can argue with, but still be friends at the end of it. Be able to see everything differently, but still be able to see each other through our differences and see why we actually still are good friends.
That's
Cheers, Will. Nice to see you.
lovely. All right, so
I'll see you next week, guys. I'll have more time. See you next week. I'll have more time.
how about for you, Soham? What is it? What are the qualities of a good friend for you?
Stephen, what you said is like, friends is like an extended family, aren't they, really? For me, they are, So what I would do for my brother and sisters, I would do for my friends. And as like yourself, as you say, if my friend, to be honest, I don't have any friends at the moment, well, not at the moment. I haven't had many friends for a long time, actually. But if I had a good friend live near around me, I would definitely, go and see them, meet them, cook for them, because cooking is something I love doing. And one of the things I love doing is when I meet anyone, any of my friends, right, I like to give them a token of gift, you know because it's bits of me. I feel I don't see it like that, but somebody said to me, it's like it's like you're giving me bits of yourself, when they received a gift. It's not that I'm doing it because I want something back from them, but I love giving people when I meet them, right, to give them something because I love seeing the happiness on their face, you know. So I always do that. Whenever I meet a friend, I have a tendency of I buy these kind of bracelets, the friendship bracelets, and I always like to gift people I meet, actually, friends I meet, because I love seeing the happiness on their face. And I think, if I was to care for my family, I would care for similarly for my friends as well, and I wish my friends, I wish all of you guys were nearby me so I could cook for you and feed you.
No,
That's
it's
what I
totally,
feel.
and gifts are one of the love languages. It's gifts, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and what's the last touch is the last one. So how about for you, Clara? What are the qualities of a good friend for you?
Um, there are many, but I think the main two that I can think of right now, one of them is just like the one you mentioned, which is kindness. I think it's very important for a friend to be kind to their friend in any way possible, which can be in form of caring or just listening and things like that. And another quality I would say is uh, kind of being, I think, non-judgmental. I think that's the word. like a friend who you can talk to about anything without them trying to maybe judge you or trying to um, put their own opinions on without trying to understand maybe where you're coming from or what you're talking about or uh, what is it you're trying to tell them. Like you're just there to listen and understand. And if I do need advice, they could give advice. They do need, if I do need just for them to listen, I just listen. If I need, I don't know, just a hug, they just give a hug. Like, yeah, I think that's also another thing. Or just a friend who I can talk to without them being judgmental, but also at the same time I can listen to them and they can always be open to talk to me. And I am 99% sure I won't be judgmental. Yeah. So yeah, I think those two are some of the main qualities. Yeah,
Thank you for that.
I mean,
And how about for you, Paul? What are the qualities of a true friend?
Um, Naughty and a wicked sense of humor. Um, you know, I think with the love languages, I'm pretty much sort of like supportive. I will give of my time and I affirm the other person. And I think it depends again on the level of interaction with people. Um, but I think the most important thing is you must have that blend of really being wicked and naughty, but at the same time being very kind and loving. You mustn't be cruel. I don't like cruelty. Um, but I do love a wicked sense of humor. Somebody can make me laugh. I like that.
So I'm curious, what does wicked mean to you? I mean, what
You
when you
don't want
say
to know. No, no, this is not for public conversation.
okay, so it's actually down that line. All right. So and for myself, I think it's really having all that we talked about, right? So now I'm curious is I just realized something, and it's this idea that we express love and we express friendship. We really are expressing love. So what you had mentioned, Soham, as far as gift giving, and that's the way that you show love to somebody. And Claire had mentioned the same thing. It's that having this, all the ranges from touch, from a hug to spending time, communication, being available, understanding, all of that, quality time. And Paul mentioned that same sort of thing. It's that it's having somebody that reflects that same. So that would be kind of like quality time where you're laughing with somebody, spending that. In mine were the acts of service. What I just realized is that's our expression, but what's our receiving? So usually your love languages are split. You have one love language for giving and one love language for receiving. And and so it's interesting. It's like, when do you feel most loved by somebody? And for myself, it's touch, right? So touch would be a big one. So like if a friend, usually it's like the female friends, if they grab my arm and pull me in, it's heartwarming. It's something that I enjoy. But then also like with my guy friends, it's like it's just having that bonding, right? So it's knowing when you have that connection. So it's just a thought. I guess we're out of time, so let's just do our takeaways quickly. Um, and feel free to talk about the giving and the receiving, but be aware of that. Kind of notice what is your giving and receiving love languages. So what was your takeaway, Paul? Go you first.
I think it's being able to talk to somebody and being understood. Um, and in my relationship with Tony, it's pretty much making time for each other and touch. We both sort of respond to sitting and holding hands. we love that. And yeah, I love his presence. So for me, that's so important. My takeaway today is, gosh, there's just so many things. So um, I loved what everybody had to say, and there's a lot to think about, and it's who you'd let in, how you connect with the people you love, and also just again the reminder that growth within the self means I have to stop and reflect and go, why is it that this person's not part of my life anymore? Could they be part of my life again? Am I more comfortable to deal with who they are? And it's constantly being self-aware, not getting stuck in that person you were when you're 5 years old or 10 years old or 20 or 30, but know that we grow and we turn up differently.
Well, thank you for that. And Clara, what was your takeaway from today?
I think my main takeaway was actually something you said towards the end, uh, something about the love languages that we give and receive. And I think I realized like when I was mentioning the qualities, I think it's also like the kind of language I love to give. And I realized it's also the one that I would like to receive. So I think that was my big takeaway from the session. Yeah.
No, thank you for that. And Soham, what was your takeaway?
Learning from my takeaway, I learned so much from everybody who are in this group. And talking about, friendship and what does friendship means to me gave me a greater clarity in my mind how I see friendship. So that's my takeaway. Thank you.
And my takeaway is this is actually, you think about it, this is kind of a simple topic that we don't give much thought to, but it's so critical to the quality of our life. The human relationships that we have are big, and we can spend a lot of time and a lot of energy. My takeaway is that part of being the absolute best friend is to know yourself, right? It's this idea of self-reflection, self-awareness, and if we can grow to be our authentic self, right? If we can be wise in the way that we show up in the world, and be true to ourselves, then we can actually be the person that the other person's looking for, right? That calm in the storm, that support when things are difficult. But there's a part of that which is, as we become self-aware, as we change, as we grow, it's the choice of whether that other person wants to maintain the relationship with you, right? Because sometimes we will grow apart, and we'll be different. And if they're expecting you to be the same as you were, and now you're different, they have to accept that. So they have to grow with you, or sometimes you grow apart. So that's my takeaway is always be true to yourself. So thank you all for being here. And I had the idea that we can take these concepts and maybe throw them into a book, right? Throw them into some sort of, or a course or something. But the wisdom that's here is huge. And you think about it, loneliness is one of the epidemics they're talking about currently. How to maintain friendships is not something it's not a skill that everyone knows, right? And they're looking externally for the answer without realizing that I think the first step is to look within. So thank you all
Stephen,
for
don't go yet. I have something that I want to share with you. So, well,
doing.
nobody has to go. I just don't want to share it on a recording.
All right. Well, we're finished up, so I'll end the recording. Thank you all. Oops.